Hello, this is Dr. Hassan Abdullah with the course Deep Reinforcement Learning. The topic which we are covering is reinforcement learning, which is the 10th topic in the list of topics covered in this course. The subtopic is C. So, the difficulty of this video lecture is from moderate to difficult, and the supplemental website used for this course is available at www.ezmcq.com/goget, which is a personalized learning management system. So, what is the future of content delivery? So the future of content delivery is delivering the content online, and the wonderful features and the benefits are in front of you. And this approach is used by hundreds and tens of millions of users worldwide, which use content delivery for the learning purposes, for education purposes. And we are going to be following the same approach in this course also. So in green color is the URL for the personalized learning management system, and in blue color are the videos which explain the features of the personalized learning management system with reference to the future of content delivery, which is as a matter of fact the present. So what it supports is advanced and basic text search in the content of the course coverage, which is not there in very popular learning management systems. And then, of course, if there are any students with visual disabilities, they can also change the font, the color, the line spacing, etc., to suit them to their requirements, which is also not there in leading learning management systems. And then all the content is kind of opens up and unrolls so as to optimize the small screen of a handheld smart device. And you can also track your progress, what you have covered, what you have to cover. And of course, you can also test yourself online in real time about the knowledge assimilation and the knowledge which you have acquired, and the weaknesses are also identified. So, what is the approach of content delivery? So, there are two approaches. One is the question and answer based, which is proactive, which is engaging, and which is also promotes thinking also. And the other approach is the traditional approach in which a lot of details are provided. So, the approach we have adopted is a blend of both approaches, that is Q&A and traditional learning also. So this is the list of topics which are covered in this course, and we are at topic number 10, which is reinforcement learning. So this is the breakdown of the list of subtopics or the concepts which are covered in this video or in this sets or series of videos. So 10A in yellow color are the basic or the fundamental concepts of reinforcement learning. And as we proceed from A to B and so on up to E, the difficulty increases progressively. And for the video lecture 10E, we have the more challenging concepts. And now we move on to the details of the video. So this is 10C reinforcement learning. So how reinforcement learning can be related to human survival in a jungle. So what we will be covering is, of course, surviving in the jungle and a makeshift environment. There are many videos which are available which show all of this. So this jungle survival analogy, it very clearly captures many central concepts of reinforcement learning. Now, humans in a jungle, those humans who have been living in a city, learn how to survive via trial and error, and then they make choices between actions, and then they have certain experiencing outcomes, and then they adapt the strategy and so on. So they are constantly balancing exploration versus exploitation, choosing actions even when rewards are delayed, which is the classical case for reinforcement learning. And they refine behavior based on feedback, and that of course feedback could both be positive and negative. Now, furthermore, jungle is a dynamic environment. It's not static like a city, okay? And that demands continuous adaptation. So just as reinforcement learning agents must operate under uncertainty, and those agents must collect data, evaluate sequence of actions, and adjust policies over time. A human survivor in a jungle must also navigate the unknown terrain and discover the sustainable strategies, and pivot as conditions change. Now, this analogy helps ground abstract reinforcement learning ideas in a concrete survival challenges faced by humans in uncertain and risk laden settings. Okay, so let's look at some more details. So what is meant by the trial and error learning here? Trial and error learning. So humans in the jungle test various actions, like how to cross rivers, how to climb rocks, and foraging, and they learn from failures, or of course they also learn from successes also. So over the time they refine their behavior into effective survival strategies. Now this is basically the same as the reinforcement learning loop of action and feedback, policy update, where the agent learns which actions yield positive outcomes and how the agent learns by repeated experience. There is no programming, remember, there is no programming. Okay. So exploration versus exploitation, always we cannot miss or sidestep. So a survival scenario forces the human to choose between the known safe paths and exploring new territories that might yield better resources. Now, too much exploration is risky, and too much exploitation may limit the access to the resources. Now, reinforcement learning captures exactly this trade off via exploration policies that manage the risk and the reward. Then the delayed rewards. Now, many survival efforts pay off later. For example, building a trap to catch the game, or doing excavating for water collection, or growing edible plants which take a while to grow. So the payoff is not immediate. So this maps to the reinforcement learning notion of delayed reward. Now, the current actions contribute to future rewards. So the agent must plan and value long-term benefits. Okay. So learning from feedback. Humans adjust behavior based on success. For example, finding food or unable to find food, or failures, encountering danger. Say, for example, coming across poison ivy. Now, these feedback signals help refine the strategies. Now, reinforcement learning similarly relies on rewards and the transitions to update the policy and value the estimates and attributing credit to past actions that we've already discussed. Okay. And then adaptation to dynamic environments. Okay. In a jungle with shifting conditions, a survival strategy must evolve, migrate to new water resources, adjust to changing predator patterns, or shift the eating habits or whatever. The reinforcement learning agents must also adapt to non stationary environments. They must also update their policy when reward or transition distributions shift over time, they change over time. So, the again, which I repeat, that the conditions in a jungle are very dynamic, they are unlike the city condition. This is a makeshift living place, this is a makeshift environment to maybe cook food or maybe create a drink or tea or coffee. So, the details are here. Please read the details to develop concepts, and here are the references for further reading. Okay, so now most of us have not lived in the jungle, but most of us have played the TikTok toe game. So, how reinforcement learning can be used to play TikTok game? So, we have the game environment. Okay, I will explain all of this. So, we learn from feedback, we as the agent, and then makes a decision where to put the cross or a zero depending upon the assignment. And of course that improves over time. And whenever there is reinforcement learning, there is always exploration and exploitation trade-off. So there are quite a few details here, and I will go over those details. So using reinforcement learning and using it to play tic tac toe game provides a clear an example, and it shows how an agent can learn decision making through the interaction with the environment. Now, what is the environment? Is the game environment, the board states and the moves. The board is very simple. It's like nine positions, and defines the learning domain. Now, how does the agent learn? The agent learns via feedback. The agent either wins or loses or draws. Those things guide the value updates to the agent. And remember and understand that at each move, the agent must decide between exploring new moves or exploiting the known good ones. So as the game progresses, thus the agent has more known good moves. Okay. Now over many games, therefore after many games, the agent improves by updating the value estimates and refining the policy. So there is still a delicate balance between exploration versus exploitation. Why? Because that ensures the agent that it continues to discover better moves, okay, while uh, like leveraging on the already known strategies. So eventually, with enough training, the reinforcement agent will be able to play flawlessly or force optimal outcomes. Okay, now let's look at some go over the details here. So the game environment. So in this game environment, okay, so what does the board state defines and what does the agent perceives is that which cells are filled with a cross or zero and which are empty. And the legal moves, placing a mark in empty squares. It's illegal to place a mark in an occupied square. These are the actions. The opponent's actions also influence the transitions. So the environment consists of the agent and the opponent moves. Now together, these define state transitions, moving from one state to another, and the structure and that states is the structure that the reinforcement learning uses. Okay. So learning from feedback. So the agent receives a reward at the end of the game, a +1 for a win and say -1 for a loss, and 0 for a draw. Now these are scalar signals, okay, and they are used to update the estimates of which state action pairs. Try to understand state and the action which is taken at that state lead to desirable outcomes. And of course, these depending upon you the state in which the agent is there, they are different pair. So over many episodes, the agent reinforces strategies that lead to wins and avoids moves those are associated with losses. To avoid those moves that result in losses. Then is decision making. So at each board position, the agent picks moves partially by exploration, by trying less familiar options, and partially by exploitation, choosing the best known moves. Now, there's a policy mechanism, example epsilon greedy, which we covered, that governs this balance. Now, over the period of time, the value estimates solidify and exploitation dominates. And finally, the agent plays optimally. All right. So, improvement over time. Now, starting from almost random play where there is no learning, the reinforcement learning agent gradually refines its value estimates and policy through repeated tournament games or self play. Remember the quotation of Napoleon. So the adversary learns from your art of game. So as the agent accumulates experience, its likelihood of winning increases. The likelihood of your enemy beating you increases. Mistakes decrease by the agent, and play becomes nearly perfect. So the victory of the enemy is ensured against you. So a balanced exploration versus exploitation. This is the cornerstone of reinforcement learning. An effective reinforcement learning tic tac toe agent gradually reduces exploration as it learns more because there is less to learn. And of course, early on, exploring many moves is essential to gather knowledge of the unknown areas. But later, the agent should exploit the best known actions to win. Now, tuning, there has to be tuning of this trade off. And that tuning is critical to efficient learning and the final performance. Okay. So now so this is now the details are here. Okay. Please read the details, all the details, and some more than some references are here also. Okay. So we move on to the next concept. Now we have spoken about tic tac toe game, but what is the size of the search space of this game? Okay. So I will give you some estimates. You can see that it increases exponentially. This is a partial. This is partial, and you can see that uh, this is so I have not explored this uh, completely because that's not possible. There's not much space here, and as you can see that most of these scenarios, this is a win here, but most of them result into a draw. Okay, so uh, let's look at this these figures here. So in tic-tac-toe game, the search space consists of all possible board configurations, right? So the board can be the position can be empty, can have a cross or or a zero. So that's 3 power 9. That's about 19,683 of possible configurations. And out of this, only there's about like 5,000 valid game states that respect the legal play rules. So it's not like very, very large, but of course it's manageable. So the game tree, which accounts for move orders and branching, is yet larger, right? Why? Because many of the sequences lead to the same state, and the maximum depth is 9 moves. But early terminations are possible, so the average depth is reduced. Now the exact valid states of 5,478 is the realistic state count for what a remote learning agent must consider for tabular or discrete learning. Now, distinguishing between raw configurations and valid states and sequence based trees is crucial to understand the computational demands of uh, reinforcement learning search methods in a tic tac toe game. So, the board configuration and numbers are as follows. Okay, so this is the naive and unconstrained count of how many ways to fill a board with x0 or empty. Okay, so it includes many impossible game states, but that provides an upper bound on how large the combinatorial space might appear before pruning the invalid branches. Then is the valid game states. Then is the valid game states. So restricting the boards reachable through legal play, respecting turn counts, no continuing after win, etc. This results in 5,478 possible states. Now these are the configurations a remote learning, I'm sorry, a reinforcement learning search agent truly must handle. So that makes the state representation and value storage feasible. This is like much less, like 4 times less as compared to the total moves. Now, game tree depth. Game tree depth. The game tree includes all sequence of moves. Now, maximum depth is 9 moves. Of course, the actual games often end earlier. So the tree's branching factor declines with each move. Now, and due to the permutation, the tree size, as a matter of fact, exceeds the distinct state count. So basically, this defines the complexity of search, and we would not like to do a brute force search. So exact valid states, approximately 5,478, is the count of all distinct legal tic-tac-toe board states. And of course, this includes the intermediate and terminal states also. Now, this is a widely accepted number and gives the practical size of the reinforcement learning or search state space uh, for perfect as well as for approximate solution methods. All right. So this is so if you go further, these are the details. You can go through the details, and here are the references.